In this video I'm going to show you how to fold the waves model designed by Meenakshi Mukerji. The waves module is a very simple module with this kind of wave shape in it, and I'll show you how to assemble a icosahedron. So that's basically 20 faces that are equilateral triangles, and you'll have 12 such points, vertices, and the vertices are each connected by an edge, and there'll be 30 edges, so we'll need 30 sheets. Now each sheet needs to have an aspect ratio of 1/3. So if we take one square and cut it into 3 stripes that each have width of 1/3, then we'll get the paper we need. So if you start with 10 squares and then cut them as I'm going to show you in a second, then you'll be fine. Now this shape can be colored with 3 different colors so that no colors will ever be next to each other. But in this video I'm actually going to show this to you for 5 colors. So I'm going to explain the pattern for 5 colors. You can of course use all different colors as I did in this one, or you can use 5 colors as I did in this one, and you'll see that with the coloring in each of these vertices you'll see all 5 colors, which I think is quite pleasing. You can also do this with just one color. Now in this model I used Tant, which is the recommendation that Meenakshi gave me for this model, and it worked really nice, and especially because Tant is available in so many colors, it's really nice to kind of make this strong mix of colors. After that, so this was my first attempt, after that I thought like this might be a really nice Christmas decoration, so I used foil. This is a bit harder to work with, but it's nice and shimmery, and I like that effect too, and it didn't work too badly. I'm going to be using kami in this model, so white on one side, color on the other, which is probably a bit harder to work with. So if you want to use copy paper or Tant or something like that, then that's probably easier for you. I'm going to use kami just because then I'll have a white and a colored side, so it's a bit clearer to you. Now this model is diagrammed in Meenakshi Mukerji's newest book, Origami Inspirations. It came out I think in August, but I only got my copy 2 days ago, so I'm quite excited. There's a lot of models in here, very clear diagrams, a lot of variations for the models too. I think it's about 34 models plus extra variations, so that actually adds up to a lot more. There's a section with guest contributions, which is really interesting. So models like this and that. If you know Meenakshi's work, you'll say, oh, that doesn't quite look like her work. Well, that's true because it's a different designer. So this is the instructions page for the waves model, which I'm going to be explaining to you in this video. There's a cool section in the beginning, I just wanted to mention that, which explains the different polyhedra and colorings for those. So there's 3 coloring in there, there's the 5 coloring in there, and I'll be explaining the 5 coloring. But of course you can always do various polyhedra with modules. So we're going to be going for the icosahedron though. So I'm going to be using clips. What are they called? Binder clips, to just make it easier to assemble the model. I'll add a link to where you can buy this kind of stuff. I mean, you can get it in any stationery, but people will probably appreciate a direct link to Amazon I'll add. And as I said, I'm going to start with 10 sheets. I'm going to be using 5 colors, so 2 sheets per color. And we're going to first cut these into thirds. And I'm going to be using a messy method to get that third. Let's get those clips out of the way. Because I don't think it's quite that important to get it 100% precise. And often with thirds I'm quite lazy. So you can watch one of my videos how to get a third in an exact fashion, or you can measure. For example, if you have got a 15 centimeter square, you can just measure at 5 centimeters and 10 centimeters. By the way, I wanted to mention that this model I did with 15 centimeter squares or 6 inches. And then the strips are obviously 5 centimeters by 15 centimeters or 2 inches by 6 inches. And then the resulting model has a diameter, so I'd say maybe that's this distance. The diameter is then 10 centimeters or 4 inches. So it's kind of double of that strip length. And this smaller model I did with, now strange numbers, 3.9 centimeters by 11.7 centimeters, or that's about 1.5 inches by 4.5 inches. And then the diameter is about 8 centimeters or about 3 inches. So now, let's get started now. As I said, I'm going to be doing a messy 1/3, but you can view one of my videos to get them exact or measure with a ruler. So what I'm going to do is make this, let's make it an S shape, so it's actually an S. And now the idea is that you try to get 1/3 and then check whether it's a third by aligning the second area. So here I can see this distance is too long, so I'm going to shift this over a bit, make a small pinch, and then try again. Still too long. And try again, and still too long. And now, just for reference, I guess, here it's too short. Can you see that? There's this white area turning up, so I'm going to go a tiny bit over. I'm making this look quite complicated, aren't I? Anyway, now you've got a nice third. And then just fold along that third. That's the first one. And then fold in the other edge to meet that one. I like to kind of make this perpendicular and then just push it so that you've got a perfect alignment. And then you do the same thing with the other side. This is basically making the first step of the modules easier because you need thirds there. And like this, you add creases to 3 modules right away. And I actually only have to mark a third on one end, I just realized. Right, so then you've got 9 squares, and we'll use a cutting mat. I did all valleys. If you did valleys just in one direction, I'd suggest you cut where you don't have both valleys, because that's the direction that's preferable for the first crease. And then I take a ruler and I push it kind of to the area. Make the paper perpendicular again, and then push the ruler against it. And then I'll have perfect alignment. And then in one stroke cut. You can of course cut differently. When I travel, I sometimes just do this. Just make this into one direction and the other. And then slightly dampen your fingertip and stroke against that edge. And then, I know this is really outrageous, rip the paper. By kind of dampening the paper just in that spot, it rips much more easily right there, so you'll get a relatively nice edge. So then you've got your 3 strips, and now let's go ahead and fold one module. So if you're using kami, so white on one side, then use the color side up. And we already have valley folds here. If not, you can make them into valley folds now. And then we're going to fold in one, and then fold back the edge, kind of creating a 6. And then flip over, and again align with that edge at 1/3, that crease line. And then the last one. already moved to much smaller paper now. So now you've got a closed edge here and an open edge right there. So let's have the open edge in the bottom, and then I'm just going to first use one layer and crease it up so that this edge aligns the top edge. Now if you're using white paper and you white and colored paper, I guess, you'll see white here. If you work on the closed side, it will still be colored. And then open up, and then take all the remaining layers and fold them up to that crease line and close it down. Then we're going to flip this over, and basically you want to do the same thing again, but this time this is already closed up. So what we're going to do is we're going to pre-crease all these layers and then open this pocket here and just stuff all those layers inside, and then make sure that we close it up nicely, like that. And now you'll see that when you open this up a bit, there's a lot of layers of paper right here and very little here. So these are two layers, and these are lots more, and here again lots of layers and very few layers. So if you take your thumb and your index finger and you push this and you try to kind of take this middle layer and just push it out a bit, it will naturally form a wave, because in the top the paper wants to go to the side where there's little paper, and in the bottom again that wants to happen. But you can also use your fingers to kind of strengthen that curve, because that would make the wave. And then your first module is all done, and you just need to do 29 more. Once you're done with all the modules, we're going to start assembling. So first, let's take two different modules. We're first going to create a 5-point, so one of these vertices. And you can see that, let's take this bone folder. Here there's a pocket. Let me try to show this to you. Right there. You can see I can push that bone folder in. There's a pocket there, and this is the flap. So I'm just going to connect these two like that and try to really make those points meet in the top. Right, so right here. Down there, they will shift apart, especially when you add more modules. But don't worry about that. So each vertex, I said, was going to have all 5 colors. So we're going to take one module of each color for the first 5-point. And each time you see this one, I'm inserting into the yellow one. And this one will go into the green one. So Meenakshi told me to not really use Kami, because then the modules may fall apart quite easily. So we'll see how that works in this video. So then you've got that final flap, and you're going to insert it into the last module you added. And it may already try to fall apart here, but just try it carefully. Or if you've got clips, for example, these binder clips I think are really helpful. You can start connecting these modules a bit. So what I usually do is, you can see that you've got basically 3 layers for each module, and I just connect these two to ensure that they kind of stay connected. That's one, and I usually use 2 for each vertex. This might be a bit early on, but it shouldn't hurt. So now to the coloring rule. You see that you've got 5 modules, and I want to add a module right here to connect these 2. And if you've got brown and pink here, then you've got 2 extra modules, and this is the one that's centrally opposite to that edge I'll be adding. And that's yellow, so we're going to add yellow here. So for this one I'd use green, for this one it'd be brown, for this one it'd be pink. I hope you get the point. So let's add a green one here. Is that what I started off with? No, I think I wanted to add a yellow one. And again, it's the same mechanism for joining. There you go. And now let's add the next one. To just form a ring around that first vertex, thus forming the first 5 equilateral triangles of those 20 that we'll have in the end. And every time you add a module, just check for the color. Later on you'll have to maybe check a bit more carefully, but for those first ones, it's really easy to see, I think, once you understand the concept. Because with colorings you can always follow patterns, but I think it's much easier if you understand how the pattern is created and then just follow along with that. Else, I'd go cuckoo, I think. If you know me, you know that I'm not the best at modular origami, so if I can do this, I'm sure you can. I think it's really fascinating what they do, but I'm often a bit clumsy with assembling stuff. So now we formed the first ring, and now we need to add more modules to finish that ring. So how does this work? Well, do I need to add green or blue here, or in which pattern? Both, of course. So if I add a blue one here and a green one here, then you'll see that here is a blue module, and it will be, again, right opposite of that edge. If I do it the other way around, now you'll see that this green one will be opposite of that blue edge. We don't want that. So the order is going to be first blue, to get that in the right spot, and then green. And when you add that last one again, you have to be a bit careful. And then the next 5 point, the next vertex is done. So let's stabilize that by adding some clips. They're really cheap. I mean, seriously, you'd pay like a couple of dollars for lots of them. And once you've got that 5 point, you can again check, does this work with the green too? Here you've got the green opposite of that green one. Yes, that's correct. And now you can, for example, add a pink one here. Oops. And then you can see this 5 point needs a yellow one, and again, yes, it's opposite of that yellow module. To push that in, and then I'm going to again add clips to ensure that this doesn't fall apart. I mean, if you're using clips, you might as well use as many as you think helps, rather than just saying, oh, if I'm using clips, I may only use 5 clips and try to work with that. Don't see much sense in that. And it does make life much easier. I'm sure I'll get the asking question whether you can use glue to connect these. And the answer is yes, of course you can. If you want to use glue, a spot of glue, to stabilize it, go ahead. I'm going to show this without to show you that it's possible, but it's your personal preference, and I'm not going to give you rules that you need to follow. Whatever you feel comfortable with. I don't like using glue as much. So then you can just move on to the next one, and I hope you got the point by now, so I'll probably speed up this process now, as we'll be sitting here ages. Now, the more modules you add, you'll find it'll be a bit harder because there's less space in some ways. This is a good sign because if you don't have that tension, in the end the paper would just as easily fall apart once you remove the clips. So if you have to push for some space, that's actually a good sign, because then all of the modules are going to push against each other, searching for space, which means that they can't just fall out. Fall out with each other, I guess, and run away. So don't be worried if space gets a bit tight and you might have to fiddle around a bit more as you go along assembling stuff. This is true for basically any modular, I think, unless it requires glue, I guess. So let's see, this is pink. If I add it like that, it'll be wrong, so I'll add it like this. So let's first take green. You'll also see that in the end, hopefully, all the colors will be gone and you'll always have had enough of each color there. If not, some point must have gotten the wrong color, some edge, and if there's one wrong color, probably you'll add others wrong too, because then when you reference that one incorrect color, it's going to have its effects. This one was a bit harder to add. Actually going to secure this already now, just because it didn't quite want to go where I wanted it to. And oh, I understand why now, because it was added incorrectly. So always make sure to add the tabs to the correct pockets. This is a tight spot here. Just as in the beginning, it's always the same. You always add the modules the same, even if it's getting a bit tight to add them. So let's maybe add one here. And after a while, you'll see that you actually have modules that just need to be connected. For example, here you can see these probably actually fell apart, but these two, they belong together. So as you go along, you may have some flaps and pockets that aren't connected yet, but can already be connected. I usually try to add everything so that I finish off all the tabs right away, but sometimes it may be easy to miss them, so just go ahead and add all of those. And another green one. find these one are the hardest. The fifth of a vertex when you're almost finished, because that's a really tight spot. And you can see kind of opening this up a bit, trying not to disconnect the modules, and then trying to get that in there. There's usually in the top, I usually have a small gap where I can add that point, and once it's in, I can push it in all the way. So that might help you kind of try to go for the top area to add the to get that corner inside the pocket, because I find, at least I find, that is the hard part of actually putting those modules together, just getting those corners into the tabs. And then, let's see, this needs to go here, doesn't it? So let's first add a pink. So you can see we're running out of modules, which is a good sign. We're almost done. And get everything correct, because what's more frustrating than kind of having it almost done and then seeing, I need an extra color. Where's the module that has the wrong color? Do I need to take all of this apart again? I wouldn't want that. So I really pay attention to which colors to add. Or that's much easier, just pick all different colors and very beautiful. Or what you can also do is just do all in one color. If you're doing the 3 coloring, you'll have to pay even more attention to where you place modules. Actually not sure what the pattern for that is right now. I'd have to study it again. But I know there is, and I've done an icosahedron from 3 colors. It was more work, but I understood the pattern back then too. I don't remember those patterns usually. I have to have a look again before. I mean, this one is really easy, so that's okay. I believe the other one is a bit harder to have a very easy pattern. Right, last module. This is the fun one. Let's first secure all the rest. Because, as always, the last module is the hardest to add. And I don't want anything to fall apart here. Maybe here. I'm not sure whether that's going to lock the model too much to actually add this. So this goes in here. You could probably cheat and try not to insert one of the flaps into the pocket, but we don't like cheating, do we? So I'm going to try hard. This is added already, so leave it like that. And now the other vertex also needs the brown. I'm quite happy with how this worked along. I think when you watch the video you won't really see me having too many problems putting this together. So if I can do it, come on guys, you can do it too. Look, that was the last one. So you can use Kami. Use clips with it, please, because else everything will fall apart. So once all of that is done, looks like all is okay. Just going to remove all those clips. And as I said, now this isn't going to fall apart easily because of the tension, because the modules need more space than they're actually getting. They're being pushed together, which also makes the waves a bit stronger, which is really nice. And you'll see that then your waves model, your waves icosahedron is all done. It's a fantastic model by Meenakshi Mukerji. Now if you know me, you know I don't do modular origami a lot, but this model really, really inspired me. And there's lots of other beautiful creations in this book. If you like modular origami, I'd say this is a must-buy. And if you're like me and a bit modularly challenged. How's that? This is a really good book too, because the explanations are clear. It's very clearly shown how to connect stuff, and you can create beautiful things such as these. Thanks again to Meenakshi Mukerji for this beautiful design, for this great book, and her permission to make this video available to you. So, happy folding!